Imagine if you could ask a short, simple, easy question that immediately gives you a bead on your existing clients, on your prospects, and on the market in general. In a moment, I reveal the magic of that question.
This is The Rare Advisor, proud to be a part of the Advisor Advancement Network and home of a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. Your host is Mike Walters, CEO of USA Financial. He is an investment advisor representative of, and securities are offered through USA Financial Securities, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
Hey, today I'm going to share with you the quickest, most successful, most accurate assessment that you can conduct with prospects or clients. It's literally scientifically proven. It's called the Net Promoter Score. Now, if you've never heard of the Net Promoter Score, I would encourage you to Google around because it's got a big following. You have no doubt taken a Net Promoter Score survey, which is really just a single question. You've no doubt been hit with that question time and time again as you've made purchases, as you've been a customer at different organizations from a service standpoint, whatever the scenario might be. This tool is pretty phenomenal. Now, I'm not going to tell you that other surveys aren't valuable. In fact, when we go through our coaching programs with you at USA Financial Protocol, we teach you how to do a full assessment of your clientele so that you can start to duplicate your best clients over and over again, a way to get introductions, which are much more valuable than referrals, and a way to deal with clients in a really powerful environment that goes far beyond normal prospecting approaches. So that piece still requires some survey, some identification of what makes things so special at your practice. But beyond that, when I need a quick litmus test, if I really need to know what's going on and I want a high participation rate, because again, a lot of people are not going to take a full survey for you. If I want a high participation rate, high accuracy, high amount of literally analysis coming out of a single question, I'm always going to the Net Promoter Score. So again, Google around, you'll see tons of information on it, but here's basically how it goes. And again, if you're a USA Financial Advisor, you've been through Chain of Secrets, you know the fast track, the little one-page cheat sheet that we provide to you on some of these items. What I'm doing is I'm focusing on the Net Promoter Score here as just kind of a blowout. So here it is. The simple question is, how likely are you to recommend, insert company name here, to a friend or colleague? So, how likely are you to recommend USA Financial to a friend or colleague? That's the simple question. And then I give a ranking where they can choose anything from 0 to 10, 0 being not at all likely, 10 being extremely likely. Now, that sounds pretty simple, and it is, but the science is in how they choose the number. So here's a piece. In fact, you can go Google this as well. This is from Bain & Company. They do a fabulous job with all of this. I would recommend their material. They've got books you can purchase, all kinds of things that dive really deep into this. But it's really this simple, right? How likely is it that you are to recommend, insert company name here, how likely is it you're to recommend USA Financial to a friend or colleague? And then I rank them. Now, here's what happens. Number one, your promoters are the people that are most likely. They're the rabid fans that you have, the mavens you have for your business. They're ranking you a 9 or a 10. They're called a promoter because they literally are promoting your company. They're thrilled with it. They love it. This is probably where you're getting unexpected referrals from now. Tie this concept together with what we do in protocol, and you'll turn that into the ideal client duplication system. That's a whole nother discussion. It goes way deeper, but it's really the horsepower that's driving growth in a lot of practices right now. That being said, they give me a 9 or a 10. They're extremely likely to recommend me to a friend or colleague, and therefore they're a promoter. Now we go to the other end. Detractors. Detractors goes from 0 all the way to 6. That's what most people don't realize. And that's where some of the science really starts to bubble out. Again, it seems super simple, seems super obvious, but there's really a lot of science under this. So the fact that a detractor goes all the way up to 6 has to do with human nature. People, they genuinely don't want to bash you, especially to your face, or especially in a mechanism that they think you might see the response. So a lot of people will give you a 4, a 5, or even a 6 simply because they don't really feel comfortable giving you a 0, a 1, or a 2, which is really what they probably are thinking. But either way, they're not necessarily returning to you. They're definitely not referring people to you. And they very well might be shopping for a replacement for you. So it tells you quite a bit in the detractor. And then passives are the 7 and 8s, which seems like it's kind of high. But the reality is, again, human nature. People will tend to give you a higher grade. Now, not everybody. There are some people who are just down on life and they're going to whack anybody they get a chance to whack. But most people, they're going to kind of err on the side of politeness. So they're giving you a 7 or an 8, but you're really a 4, 5, or 6. That's why they're giving you a 7 or an 8, right? So in this instance, they become a passive. It means they almost don't count. They're not necessarily working against you in the marketplace. They're not telling people, oh yeah, I really wouldn't go there. You should probably choose somebody else. But they're also not promoting you. They're not referring people to you. They're not your rabid fan. They're not your maven in the marketplace. So they're a passive. So now, how do you take all this data? So let's say you've done this on 100 clients and prospects. How do I now take all that data and assess it? Well, here it is. Here's the formula. It's super simple. The Net Promoter Score is simply the overall percentage, because again, it doesn't matter how many people you're asking. You can have a huge universe, you can have a mid-sized universe, you can have a small universe. Whatever the number, doesn't matter. What is the percentage against the overall count that ended up in a promoter score? And then I subtract the detractors. So anything above 0 is actually pretty good. You get above 25, you get above 50, you get above 75, you're world class. You get above 50, you're pretty phenomenal, right? So the scale on this, because of the way it works, is a positive 100 to a negative 100. So 0 is actually the midpoint. You want to be above 0. You likely are. I would hope you are. But then you climb. And when you start getting to 25 to 50 to 75, that's when you've got something to build on. And you want to continue to grow it. So USA Financial, for example, we've been as high as in the 90s, which is crazy and unheard of. But under more normal circumstances, we're 75 plus, which technically, if you Google around on this stuff, means that, quote, we are a world-class company in terms of how people view us. Now, that probably fits, I guess you could say, because we're a 5-time honoree of the Inc. 5000 award. And there are very, very few, it's a very small sliver of companies that have made the Inc. 5000 5 times. So you kind of combine those two things, you say, oh, you know what? That starts to make sense. And a lot of it has to do with understanding this, working it, and realizing I can probably move passives to increase them to promoters. Detractors are probably a waste of everybody's time. They're not happy. They need a new home, right? So there's a lot you can learn from this. It's called the Net Promoter Score. I gave you a pretty thorough rundown right there, but there's actually software that will help you with this, where you can put it into your website. You can send it out as an email. People can take the survey and respond back to you. I would recommend that once you do this, you start to slice and dice. So I want to look at what are my clients saying versus what are prospects saying versus what are other collateral professionals saying, maybe people like attorneys and accountants or others that I work with in the community. Then from there, I want to start breaking down by size of client. You know, my larger clients, what are they saying versus my smaller clients? Maybe I'm going to profile clients, those who I think are the best right fit for me. How are they answering versus others who maybe aren't the right fit for me? And it helps you hone in to understand, again, back to the ideal client. Who do I truly want to duplicate to grow my firm? I don't want to duplicate the bottom 20%. I want to duplicate the top 10%. That's what this will help you hone in on, to understand where's your sweet spot, how are you being viewed in the marketplace, and how do you leverage that moving forward to grow your practice.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.